everyone. I'm Matt Barkoff, aka the Sober Cold Bear, and welcome to the Sober Cold Bear podcast. I'm so glad you're here. We are here to celebrate the journeys of those embracing sobriety and excelling in business and entrepreneurship. And today, we have an incredibly dynamic guest whose life story embodies resilience, passion, and a commitment to excellence in both her personal and professional life. My good friend and longtime colleague, Robyn Hannah. She is a powerhouse in the world of communications. She's not just about business. She's a vibrant personality who lives and breathes the spirit of living sober and what it means. I've always known Robyn for her impeccable style and a strong belief in the importance of partnership, but she really stands out in the crowd. And what truly makes her story compelling is her incredible journey of sobriety. And as of right now, I believe she's celebrating over 18 months of transformation. So we're going to be diving into her experiences, the lessons, the ways she's now embracing sobriety, and how it's reshaped her life and business outlook. Please join me for the next 30 minutes for an inspiring conversation filled with honesty, courage, and insights into what it means to reclaim your life. Let's welcome Robyn Hannah to the Sober Cold Bear podcast. Let's go.
I never get lonely. I got these goals to keep me company. I took the rear view off of this so forward, so I only see in front of me. Now the past is out.
Well, hello there, Robyn. How are you?
Well, I'm well. It's great to connect with you today.
It's good to see you again. I mean, we have years and years of history together, and it's just absolutely incredible that here we are in this, little conversation in the corner of the world somewhere. And but I'm so glad you're here, and it's so glad I'm so grateful that you're able to take the time and be a part of this conversation. So. Obviously this is, a real kind of open conversation. We would love to hear about who you are and what you do, and your story, and then we'll jump right into it. So without further ado, everybody meet Robyn Hannah.
Yeah, thank you. Gosh, I wouldn't even know where to start, but maybe we'll work backwards, because today, as we're talking, I'm in a dramatically different part of my life, doing dramatically different things than our time together. It feels like this whole new chapter. I'm a yoga instructor and a breathwork and meditation coach. And I'm still, my corporate background, I have 20 years of experience leading corporate marketing, global communication, public relations, work I very much...
Which is how we met. We met.
Yeah, absolutely. And I took the last 3 years, I took sort of a forced sabbatical. I was burnt out. I needed a break. And that's kind of how I ended up in this unexpected sober journey too. I grew up in Silicon Valley. I never thought that I would work in tech, and I found myself working in tech, grinding it out, fully bought into the hustle culture. Finding it like a badge of pride when you would pull an all-nighter at the office and, work till 2, 3 a.m. and every weekend, and working for high-growth startups where it was not just expected, but it was rewarded to work that way. And where work really became your life. It was your community. It was your people. And as you've mentioned, we have talked about alcohol is such a big part of that. And then not only that, it was also a big part of how you unwind after that, how you interact with your friends. And, I didn't even drink on my 21st birthday. I was not, alcohol was not a part of my life.
I drank on my 21st birthday.
I grew up a pretty strong Christian, and that, ideology and mentality had a chokehold on me, and I was like, I can't drink. That would be a bad example. So, it wasn't really later into my 20s that I found alcohol. And then as I went through my 30s and early 40s in corporate life, it is such an expectation. It is such a normal part of life and dynamics. I mean, I don't think we've ever worked at a job where there wasn't alcohol in the break room, like in where you right?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's this kind of like pressure for perfectionism in business, and there's this massive kind of expectation, which is ironic, of you show up, and I've been talking to a lot of folks about this, like you have to show up and you have to be there and you have to be present and you have to be on all the time. You have, whether it's for your colleagues or for your leadership or for your customers, right? And then they're like, let's go out to dinner and let's drink a bunch of drinks and just and it just, everything completely goes out the door. And then you're still expected to kind of have this perfectionism to behave the way that you do, and it's becoming more and more so that folks just can't. And I think that it's becoming an ever evolving problem. I mentioned to you before we kicked off, like the level of addiction in business. It's something like I've heard it's 10%. I've heard it's 15%. I think it's higher. I think it's a much higher percentage. But when you mix kind of the expectation of having to like be on all the time, on top of that, with the virtual happy hour, and when you're at some event, you have to go to something and you have to be always on. That's a very difficult thing to do.
Yeah. Well, and we know, and I think the world is evolving, but where you and I came up, certainly, drinks after work were how you got ahead in your career. Dinner and drinking with customers is how deals got done. And whether it was, working with our PR agencies out in New York, going out for drinks, or working with customers, hosting happy
it's
hour.
like an expectation, right? It's just something that just is.
And more than the expectation, if you're not there and you're not drinking with those people, you're missing out on the bonding and the conversations. And like, this is how you get ahead in your career. Being a part of that club was how you got promotions and raises and opportunities. You were around for those little side conversations. And as a woman in particular, breaking into the boys club that Silicon Valley has historically been, that business I think in general has been, you were already missing out on some of those little conversations, those ideas that pop up just like the guys are out for drinks or they're out on the golf course.
Sure.
And so you had to find a way to get in so that you could be opportunistic when those little ideas or projects came up and you could jump on them. And so when you're not out and drinking, you're not doing the after work drinks or the after work dinners, you're missing out on those little moments that you get ahead, and you start to feel that, you start to see it, so it becomes a part of your life. But
sure.
Even then, like and look, I'm a Northern California girl. I grew up with wine, and it's part of our culture, and I love it. I love wine. I love the art of it. I love the craft of it. And it really became this like thing for women, like mommy juice, right? Or like there's all these memes and jokes around like women and their wine. And it did become this sort of cultural phenomenon where that's how we were bonding through alcohol. So it wasn't just at work, it was in your social environment. Then it was like the come home from work, have a glass of wine with dinner to unwind at the end of the day. It was just,
sure.
Alcohol was ever present. And then it was even like, oh, we're going to a baseball game, drinks. We're going to the movies. Oh, this new movie theater serves wine now. Like alcohol has gotten embedded into every single function. I mean, moms are joking at kids' soccer games about how like there's really wine in here. Like they've
they got their sippy cups and everything else. I mean, I think what's interesting too is I know a lot of folks that are in the program like me that I talk to at meetings, before, after meetings, or what have you, and they have even told me about what I call this imposter syndrome, where they don't necessarily want to talk about that they're not drinking because they don't want to be judged. They don't want to be like looked as like, that sober person, or they had issues or whatever. They're almost like faking it, where they have like, lemonade and soda water, and it looks like a tequila and soda or whatever, and they're acting like they're drinking. So there's this imposter syndrome. Have you ever been like in a situation where somebody came up to you and said like, hey, I'm not drinking right now, but like, what do I do? Like, what would you say to somebody that needed guidance around that to make them feel comfortable? I've actually had conversations with folks. I'm curious what you would say.
Yeah, I mean, this has happened over and over. We certainly have worked with people who were sober after struggling with addiction for a long time. And I'm like, great, what do you want? Do you want soda, lemonade, iced tea? Do you just want water? Is there something else we can bring? And actually, one of the cool things now is that there are so many options. And like so many, I mean, every craft cocktail bar has a mocktail menu. I
Oh
wish
yeah.
those were functional mocktails. Can I just put a shout out to people who are having mocktails? Can they not just be these like sugar bombs, but maybe like get some of the adaptogens in there? But like there's
I had guys. I had on another podcast. I had the sober bartenders, and they basically have an entire service where they do mocktails and they do events. So
love that.
yeah, and there's a
Well,
ton of companies out there that are like
oh,
coming out with these products. It's insane.
so
It's a
many.
massive. I mean the addressable market I would think is pretty large,
Huge.
and it's going to become even bigger.
Well, yeah, as you and I talked about, I think this upcoming generation is going to look at drinking the way that we look at smoking. They're going to be like, you were just killing off all your gray matter in your brain for fun? Like what? It's not going to make sense. But I think what's different for me is that, like I said, alcohol was just sort of a normal part of my life. It was an expected part of my life. I remember being at the doctor's one time, and the doctor asked, how many glasses of alcohol do you consume a week? And I was like,
Lie. You're like,
um,
make it up.
well, at first I was like alcohol or like is wine included? And
Sure.
she said, any alcoholic beverage. And I was like, per week, do you mean like Monday through Friday or weekends too? And she's like, any alcohol you consume in a 7-day period. And I was like, oh yeah, right. 4. Like maybe 2 glasses of wine on Saturday and 2 glasses of wine on a Friday night. And I was like, you are such a liar. Because, it was literally like come home from
Doctors
work.
know it too. I mean, they know you're bullshitting.
Well, and she said, okay, just letting you know, consuming more than 3 glasses of alcohol or 3 servings of alcohol in a week increases your risks for long line, right? And I just
yeah.
thought, like, I don't know anyone who only has 4 drinks a week. I mean, you sit down at dinner and you finish a glass of wine together, that's 2 glasses each. That happens more than once a week. Like, I don't know anyone who drinks less than that. I literally didn't know anyone who drank less than that unless they were a recovering alcoholic. And so in my journey, and so again, I stepped out of tech about almost 3 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
At the time, I was so burnt out. I was working at another startup. It was tough and toxic. At the time, my partner and I had been trying to get pregnant and we weren't successful. And the fertility doctor was like, alcohol's got to be out. So I had already significantly reduced any alcohol consumption just because I was trying to get pregnant in my 40s. And,
Sure.
and as I was just doing that and knowing that it was like temporary, like until we get through this round of shots or these hormones or whatever, my friends could like hold space because it was purposeful. Like, oh, she's not drinking because she's trying to get pregnant. Like, that's fine. Once, and in this little window of time outside of corporate life, I was beginning to do some deep healing work, healing my nervous system, coming back home to myself. I was doing, therapy and yoga and meditation and breath work and all these sort of modalities. At the same time, I was in this relationship that wasn't healthy. And, as I came through that, we ended up getting pregnant. So then I had, another excuse for why I'm still not drinking. So everyone accepts that. And then, in the middle of that, we lost the baby.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry.
And at the same time, I found out that he was having an affair.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, and so
Just,
I had
just pile it on.
it was like the darkest, heaviest, saddest.
Yeah, that sounds like a bottom to me. I mean,
It was,
nothing like a big stab and then another stab and another stab. It's like
Yeah.
kick me while I'm down, while ya.
Yeah, it was a time of deep sorrow, and all of a sudden I had this thought like, okay, well I can drink again. And in my history, in my life, for many, many, many years, I always do dry January, and I always pick one other month in the year just to give my body a break. Like I'm pretty healthy. I'm vegan. Fitness and wellness is a big part of my life. So I've always wanted to give my body this break. So every year, dry January, every year, one other month. But this had been kind of a long stretch of not drinking because we'd been trying to get pregnant, and then I was pregnant for 3 months. And so then I was like, okay, well, I can drink again. And I had this moment of recognition where I was like, I'm hurting. I am suffering. And if I choose right now to check out, if I choose right now to start drinking, I'm going to be trying to take a shortcut through these emotions, through this healing process, and I'm going to prolong it. So I decided to wait to not start drinking until I felt like I had done some healing from the relationship and from the loss of the baby.
Well, it sounds like you've done a really nice job trying to figure out your center again, and that's a really hard thing to do. We're gonna jump over to that in just a second in terms of like how do you deal with life on life's terms now? How do you actually sit in the feeling and all that stuff? I was just gonna say, with regards to alcohol, we were talking about this a little bit before, but there's a new report out by the Surgeon General where it talks about just the massive cancer risks from alcohol consumption and what it can do. There's other studies that have come out that actually talks about brain shrinkage in adults that consume alcohol, whether it's moderate drinking or higher consumption, and there's specific brain regions. They can actually specifically go, and again, I'm not a doctor, but from listening to a lot of podcasts and a lot of doctors talking about it, they can actually narrow down and actually see where the white and gray matter is, where there is actually brain loss, and which obviously down the road can lead to all sorts of risks, not just all sorts of health risks and issues, whether it's cancer, whether it's dementia, whether it's Alzheimer's. I mean, there's direct correlations to this. We're going to keep hearing more and more about it. Oh, yeah. That's the reason why I'm trying to get the word out on this and why I'm talking about it so passionately. It's not just to kind of talk to my friends and talk to folks in the world. It's also to really talk about that this is an epidemic, and it's not talked about enough.
No, and again, for me, I realized that turning to alcohol as a timeout, as I just want to turn off, right? It limits your capacity for healing. It limits your capacity for self-reflection. It limits your capacity for holding your emotions with clarity and with honor and with integrity. I think it creates a disconnect between the mind and the body and the spirit. And what I've learned, and so tracking back, I was like, I'm going to give this a little bit more time. And then I had gotten to about 6 months and I thought, why don't I just do a year without alcohol? And then I'll start drinking again. And I got to the end of the year and I was like, well, it's dry January, so I'll do that. And then I felt like it had made such a shift in my life. And I think there's an important message here. And I think you and I have talked about this, where giving up alcohol has always sort of been around, if you have a problem with alcohol, if you're struggling with addiction, then you have to give it up. If it's going to cost you your marriage, your career, your livelihood, whatever, then you have to give it up. But giving up alcohol...
Or you lose your marriage and lose your kids because you fucked up so bad, and then everything goes out, or you go to jail because you killed somebody or a DUI. But yes, you're 100% right.
You don't have to struggle with addiction to benefit from giving up alcohol.
You're right. And for some folks like yourself, and again, I know that you're not, completely sober, and this is not about bringing folks on that are in a sober program. If they choose not to drink, that's it. It's more around the lines of actually the health benefits of what, an individual is doing. It just because, my program, obviously I'm an addict, right? I'm a drug addict. I'm an alcoholic. For as long as we knew each other, chances are, I was doing something, and I probably didn't look well a lot of the times that you saw me because I was living in, toxic chemicals because I was drinking or what have you. I wasn't behaving well, so my character defects were coming out. For folks like me, I leaned on something like alcohol to bury the pain, to numb the pain. But the aftermath of that, of my behavior, because of my character defects and how those came out, the ramifications of that are massive down the road, whether it's me feeling shitty for a couple of days because I'm getting older, or I said something to a colleague, or I said something to my wife, or I did something to my kids. you can't ever get that back. So you're
Oh,
spending a ton of time, years, decades trying to win trust. So there's a lot bigger, there's much larger consequences as a result of um, bad choices as a result of when you are under the influence of something.
oh, I mean, um, the my best friend and I always call it a shame over. It's like even if
Shame over.
you're not
I like
feeling
that.
bad the next morning, you're like, or people call it hangxiety. Like you're like,
Anxiety.
what did I say? What did I do? Like, why did I talk to that? Did I give my number to that guy? Like, just the like the shame over. Like, how did I? Why did I think it was okay to stay out till 3 o'clock in the morning with my colleagues? Like, just like the shame over of even when you didn't do anything necessarily like egregious or worse than anybody else. Certainly, like, I mean, yes, um, you were moving through your career high, whatever,
Sure.
intoxicated, but you had the camouflage of everyone around you being in the same boat, acting the same way. And maybe they weren't necessarily doing it as frequently. There were a lot of times, think about every event we went to, South by Southwest. I mean, it
Oh
is
my
like
goodness.
drinking event, drinking event, drinking
Alcohol.
event, drinking event, drinking event. But,
Yeah.
but yeah, what I've noticed is first in the first sort of year of this, I felt like I always had to explain, like, you go to a restaurant and they're like, do you want to see a wine list? I'm like, no. They're like, can I get you a drink? And I'm like, no. And I'd be like, I'm not drinking right now. And people are okay with like, I'm not drinking right now. Like, oh, okay. Oh, how, and then there's questions. And that's fine. I've been happy to like kind of share or dry January. I'm like, oh, dry January. And they're like, oh, cool. 2 weeks left or whatever. Everyone kind of gets that. I realized how many people have said things like, oh, but you're not going to be drinking, so it's not going to be fun. Or like, oh, are you still not drinking? Like some of the social circles that I was in and the people I hung out with, they'd be like, oh, let's meet up, let's grab a drink. And I would say like, hey, how about a hike? Do you want to go on a hike instead? Just like,
Yeah.
and they're like, or, they're like, oh, we have this event, but you're not going to be drinking. Oh, are you still not drinking? Like there's this.
Yeah, there's this stigma. There's this constant stigma where it's like and again, like this is kind of what I said about earlier, where you're potentially like being judged. Now, I'm very upfront and transparent with everybody that I talk to about my sobriety journey, right? Some folks aren't necessarily okay with talking about it, but there's just this kind of like hidden, stigma where folks just kind of say, "Oh, you're not drinking right now? Like, why?" Like,
Well,
and
what's funny is if you said like
it
I'm
doesn't need to be
recovering
that way.
alcoholic, but when you're like, hey, I'm in recovery, people are like, oh, cool. You get. They're like, good for you. Hands off, right? When you don't have that excuse, when you're just like, I'm making this as a choice, there's a lot of pressure because they're not like they don't feel like they're compromising your sobriety. Right? So then there's like, oh, come on,
Yeah.
you can drink. You can drink. You're not trying to get pregnant right now. Like there's all this pressure.
Oh my goodness.
I'm like,
Absolutely.
are we back in college? This is crazy. But
Not to mention, I mean, the mental health aspects of alcohol in society, in business right now, it's insane because when you take the combination of alcohol, which naturally is a depressant, right?
sure.
It makes you depressed. It's literally that same chemistry. You take that and you combine that with other things that maybe you're doing, right? A lot of folks are on anxiety and depression, drugs or other drugs for whatever mental health they're doing. When you combine that, it's literally like pouring gas onto a fire. And, and it's just being able to, take a step back from that and realize what are the long-term risks that I'm possibly facing as a result of doing this. I don't think a lot of folks are necessarily thinking about that. They're just thinking about like 2 steps ahead of them and what they're doing.
Yeah. And again, for me, it was so much more about the level of alignment and healing that I could get to without checking out, without using alcohol to disconnect my mind, body, and spirit, without having those those timeouts or those days off. Like alcohol is, yeah, it's great. And to be fair, I don't think I'm that fun. So I probably was more fun
You're
when I was drinking.
you're super fun. I mean, I've been around you in the past when, we've both been sober, and we've also,
Yeah, yeah.
we've tied one on in
You've
the
gotten
past,
after it,
many
yeah.
times.
But
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 you're
I'm like, I don't want to stay out as late. I like without
yeah.
drinking. I'm like, I'm cold, my feet hurt, I want to go home. But also,
So
yeah,
let me ask you a question. What is stopping you from just staying sober? Like, what is it?
oh
Like,
yeah,
I'm not trying to like.
the peer pressure to stay sober and not.
No, 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 no. I would like for you to do whatever you want, right? And there's no judgment here. But like, you've got 15 months. Like, why would you go back to something that Robyn, is like
Yeah,
has caused issues in the past? Like, why would you go back to doing something that would cause issues? Why wouldn't you just continue on your path?
yeah, and I know I don't think we've talked about it yet on this podcast, but from our previous conversations that I've held on to this. Like, I'm gonna drink again. I'll drink
Yeah.
again. I just haven't gotten there. And I've had these kind of milestones. When this thing happens, I'll celebrate with a toast or, and I don't know why. Well, I'll say, I don't know for sure why I am kind of holding on to that, because I feel great. And, a lot of people have asked, like, oh, do you feel so different not drinking for a year? Almost, now I'm at like almost 16 months. And I don't know that I said, I don't think I feel different. One, I wasn't drinking a ton, and I had taken time off as we had been trying to get pregnant. And I have a pretty healthy lifestyle in general. What I noticed, how I feel the most different, is my anxiety significantly reduced. Like,
Oh, 100%.
cutting out alcohol and cutting out caffeine, game changers.
No, I'm guilty as charged on the caffeine, but that's okay. I have coffee in the morning.
Um,
It's okay.
so like that, maybe that's where I don't have like those shame overs. And it has been beneficial for being more aware of relationship dynamics. The friends who are like, yeah, great. I love that you're not drinking. Good for you.
Yeah.
The ones who are like, yeah, totally. Let's go on a hike instead of a drink. Every time someone comes on a hike instead of meeting me for a drink, they're like, this was great. Why don't we do this more often?
Amazing, huh?
Yeah. And so I can see all these benefits, the perspective that it's unlocked for me, how much more aware I am of how alcohol was just this assumption in every event and part of life. The level of healing I've been able to do, and the longer you get away from it, that after it's like there's a 3-month window, and then a 6, and then a year, and
Yeah.
I feel like you just keep getting to these deeper levels of healing and integration, and then I keep saying, but I'll drink again, and I think it's because one, again, I'm a Northern California kid, and I love.
You love your wine.
I love old world wine. I love the art. I love the sense of terroir. I love the beauty of it. I love the flavor of it.
Have you ever tried? I haven't tried it yet. Have you ever tried non-alcoholic wine?
I tried a few of them. So this is another part of sort of in my sober journey,
Yeah.
and in giving up alcohol. I wasn't looking for the substitute. Like, there are some really cool, like Kin Euphorics. There's some really cool brands out there that make these mocktails and these alcohol. And I just said, I don't want it, because the same way I'm a vegan. I don't eat like the Beyond Meat, the things that are like so close to meat. I've chosen
Yeah,
not
yeah.
so I don't want it in my life.
I know a lot of folks in the program that some are like, okay, like I have a couple buddies, and they're best friends, and they were drinking buddies since they were kids, right? And they still drink non-alcoholic beer, and they go fishing, and they drink non-alcoholic beer, and that works for them.
Sure.
I know other folks that are like, I don't even want to touch anything that has remotely connected to the word beer or wine or anything else, right?
Right.
And so again, it just, everybody has their own journey, and
Yeah.
and that's the beauty of this program, and sobriety can
do it
take on
however-
so many. Yeah, sobriety can take on so many colors.
Sure. Now when I go to a party, and normally it's a no-brainer to bring a bottle of wine or someone's house for dinner.
Sure.
I bring like the large format kombuchas.
Oh,
Kombucha in a wine glass. There's also this beauty and elegance to wine, and the wine glasses, and this beautiful stemware, and And I get some of that just drinking like a kombucha and a glass of wine.
It's like a status, right? Like and I'm sure I'll be talking to a lot of folks about this, but it's like the status thing. You're holding something. It's a conversation piece. Like, it's part of it, right? But on those same lines, there's something else. Before we kind of wrap things up, Robyn, I really want to tap into your knowledge and guidance as around meditation and yoga.
Sure.
I meditate at night. I probably should meditate in the morning. I probably need to breathe more. Now, I've told you I'm like a big contrast therapy guy, right? So I do sauna and cold plunge every single night. I do cold plunges every single day, 37, 38 degrees, super cold, right? And it's really good for me. And I have to breathe to get through it because it sucks. It's really, really freaking painful, right? So being a person that is now an ex, I would say, you clearly have expertise in the yoga field. How do you incorporate? Because I think a lot of individuals in sobriety use meditation and healing as a part of their daily practice to get through difficult situations, right? Closing your eyes, thinking of a beautiful place, a sunset, a beach, snow on a mountain, like, whatever it is you want to come up with. What do you do? How do you, because you obviously also do a lot of coaching around this. So tell us a little bit about how you use meditation in your daily practice.
Yeah. So I practice transcendental meditation, which is a specific style. So twice a day for 23 minutes each session. So 20 minutes of sort of the meditation, 3 minutes to kind of...
And it's called transcendental meditation?
Transcendental meditation, yeah.
Transcendental. Okay, got it. Okay.
That's the sort of the meditation style that I practice and use. I also do breath work.
Okay.
Which, and again, as someone who's struggled with anxiety, perfectionism, as you said, has been a huge driver. That constant performance trap of needing to earn your worth and your value, improve yourself. Being able to take this space to meditate, to find stillness, to cutting things like alcohol out of my life, to find a deeper mind and body connection, the practice of yoga, meditation, all these things, they create a space for you. They create a container for you to witness yourself with more compassion, to slow things down. Especially you and I have come out of this world where it was like go, 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 go. Everything is
always
right. That like slowing down to speed up idea was really hard for me. And so using it twice a day as these anchors, and I do try to meditate one in the morning, and then ideally it's like later in the afternoon so that you're still kind of carrying the benefits with you. But there are a lot of times where I don't get to it until nighttime. And then in between I'll do some breath work.
It's really interesting, like the whole, especially in like the startup world, even the tech world, there's always this kind of like just run, sprint, like go as hard as you can. And what I find most challenging when I finally actually do my meditation before I go to bed, like it's really hard to just sit there and just be and sit in quiet for a minute and close my eyes and get into my breath work and get into myself. I need to do a much better job of that. And I know a lot of folks that actually use it, a couple of minutes in the morning, they get into a difficult situation, they close their eyes, they breathe, they get into the moment, and then they go right back to work, and it just kind of brings them back to center.
Oh, the power of breath. Breath is truly the language of our nervous system. And the quality, the health, the groundedness of our nervous system directly impacts our mental health. And our mental health is the framework we use to make our choices. So when your breath is mindful and grounded, your nervous system can settle back into your rest and digest. From there, your mental health begins to increase and heal. And then we make choices that reflect that healing back to us. The opposite is true. When we're not breathing, when we're disconnected from our bodies, when we are detached, our nervous system is out of whack. We're constantly in fight or flight for extended periods of time. The cortisol is high. Our mental health is strained and stressed and damaged. And then we make choices from that place. And those choices often include things that will give you immediate relief, like alcohol. One of the things about breath work that I think is so amazing and powerful is like, you don't have to pull over in your car necessarily, depending on the style, the technique that you're using.
You don't do it anywhere.
You don't have to change your clothes. You don't you can just stop and do box breathing. So accessible, like a deep breath in for 5 seconds.
Yeah. And you know what?
Out.
So many folks make decisions when they're in very, very stressful, when they're in a mindset of stress.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, well, not so much oftentimes, but that's where you can potentially get into, challenges with your colleagues, challenges with, your customers. If you don't actually stop and just take a breath, it could even be something. And what I do is, like, even when I'm in a tough situation and a customer, I even find myself now sometimes stopping and taking just a deep breath for just 10 seconds before I even answer a question.
Absolutely.
And literally those 10 seconds of space give me a little bit of pause to just get back to something. And you actually get the attention of the other person because they actually know that you're actually taking your time to maybe answer or respond. You're not going to immediately just jump to it.
Sure. Breath is one of the most powerful tools we have in combating stress, in activating a dysregulated nervous system. Than in calming an activated nervous system and bringing it back into regulation. Our breath is a tool of agency. When we can pause and calm our breath and calm our bodies through the breath, we are not reacting out of something that someone has said to us or what someone has done to us, or more likely the case, to something that has happened in the past at this moment is bringing back up those same feelings where we have this sort of overcorrection or over-exaggeration or heightened emotion, because it's not about this moment. It's about many other moments in the past that look like that. When you come back to your breath, you are now an active participant in your healing. You are an active participant in choosing the way that you are going to show up in that moment. This higher version of you, this healing version of you, this adult resourced version of you. So it
makes you a better version of yourself, even in that short moment. Now, if you can do something like 20 minutes a day in the morning or in the morning and 20 minutes at night, all the power to you. But even just subtle breaks, you can definitely benefit. I don't know much about this transcendental meditation. I almost said medication. There's probably medication that's called transcendental medication, but I'm definitely going to look into this. Look, Robyn, I adore you. We have close to a decade that we've known each other, believe it or not. I think we met back in 2014, 2015. It's been over 10 years.
Crazy.
And it's like you're one of those that I don't need to talk to you for months, 6 months, 12 months. We get on the phone, it's like
nothing.
We just spoke yesterday.
Yeah.
That's a really incredible quality and an incredible friendship that I'm so proud to have with you. And I am so grateful that you were able to take the time to come here and to share your journey. We'll definitely continue talking about this. You've said some really, really amazing things. I don't know if you had any kind of final thoughts to the topic today. That please take a few moments and share your insights, and then we'll go ahead and wrap it up. Yeah,
no, I so appreciate you. I value your friendship. I was explaining who you were to me the other day as we were getting ready for this call. And I said, he was kind of like my work big brother. He was like this, he was like this big brother kind of guy to me, that we just became friends. And we were in the trenches together.
Yeah, we were.
And we were also at the same time doing life and trying to manage life and relationships and all the sort of stresses and make this company go and do our best. And, we were just bonded through those experiences.
Absolutely.
And I'm so appreciative of our ongoing friendship, but also, like you said, we could pick up and talk like it was yesterday, but it was so cool to pick up the phone a couple weeks ago and say, like, I saw that you're on this sober journey, you're doing this wellness company, like, I'm a yoga teacher and breathwork coach now. What is happening? We are in these.
Who would have thought?
We are holding completely different spaces in some ways. Who would have thought? And to be able to meet each other here is so beautiful and powerful. And I'm just so thankful to get to, it's not often that we get to evolve with people. Sometimes we evolve out of our friendships and evolve out of our relationships. And it's been so nice to be able to meet you in this place. And watch this evolution, and I'm excited to continue watching it. And I'm so proud of you. Gosh, I'm really proud of you. You've done.
Thank you. It's been a real journey. It is something that I am dealing with every single day. It's a daily struggle. It's a daily reprieve. It's a daily challenge. But I will tell you, I have become a better human being. I've become a better husband. I've become a better father. And it's not by doing like really big changes. I just focused on the things that are really, really important. And that is like making sure that I'm like mentally healthy, making sure that I'm taking care of my body, making sure that I'm meditating, making sure I'm drinking water, making sure that I'm exercising, making sure that I'm not drinking, making sure that I'm doing things that tackling big challenges in a healthy manner rather than in a destructive manner. And, in the past, I haven't done that. And, I haven't gotten like into trouble as much, but it hasn't necessarily worked out as well as now. And the now is, this is me, this is who I am. I'm comfortable in my skin and I'm comfortable talking about this topic. Some folks aren't. But I think this is something that is going to continue to become, an active conversation and a growing conversation, especially in the corporate world. And I really appreciate you. I really do. And whatever journey that you take and whatever path, Robyn, I got your back, and I adore you and I love you. And thank you so much for being here. And we're going to go ahead and wrap it up.
I just want to leave you with one other thing.
Please.
Because I've heard you say I should I should meditate more. I should. And I have a friend that always says, "Stop shooting all over yourself."
Stop shooting.
Yeah.
I am.
Yeah.
I need to change the mantra here. Yeah.
It's like you're doing great, and I could do these things, but there's not necessarily a should. This would be beneficial for me. But sometimes even as we talk about our healing or our journey, we do it with a sense of shaming, like a sense of judgment. Like, I need to heal this thing. I need to fix this thing about me. I need to, there's this embedded sense of like shame and judgment. And, and I think we can free ourselves from that. And I know that a lot of the sort of sobriety programs, it's sort of an important tenet to identify as an addict, like I'm an addict, so that you hold that. But I think you can free yourself from that, because you are not an addict. You are not what you do. You are so much more than that. You have a deep inner knowing, a deep inner value, a deep inner worth that is untouched and untraumatized and has never been an addict. There is a protected part of you inside of you, your truest self, your whole soul. And you struggle with addiction. You have had addictive seasons of your life, but I don't believe the ownership of I am an addict is a fair representation of who you are.
Oh. That's a really, really powerful thing to say. Thank you for doing that. I'm really glad that you did say that, and I'm gonna go back and listen to that. I'm definitely. I think one thing that I don't do well is I don't. I say a lot of things in the not so positive way, if that makes sense. I would like to, I could, as opposed to I am, and I will, and me, and just simple little kind of things that I need to change. That's super helpful. I'm definitely gonna look into that and work on that. Thank you again, Robyn, for being here. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, and I hope everybody got something out of this 45 minutes of time. And thanks again, Robyn. I love you,
I
and
love you.
we'll talk soon.
Yes. Bye.
Okay, bye.